It's still very windy out there across parts of the south where the isobars are particularly close together, but it is starting to ease down through the night. Still some heavy downpours to come across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England, and move back into North Wales later in the night as well. And a few showers keep going across Devon, Cornwall and Somerset, but many other areas will become drier. The wind's still fairly brisk, but coming generally a few notches down compared to today's very lively gusts. Temperatures start Tuesday about 10 or 11 Celsius. There will still be showers feeding into northern Scotland on a fairly brisk wind, but much of central and eastern Scotland having a fine sunny start to Tuesday. Much of Northern Ireland as well, but I suspect along the north coast staying fairly cloudy here. There's a line of thicker cloud and some showers that are going to feed across the Irish Sea into northwest England too, and we'll still have one or two scattered showers whizzing across southwest England. They will be moving through because the breeze will remain fairly brisk, and so we'll continue to see that zone of cloudier weather over southwest Scotland and northern England, provide a few showers that may get over the Pennines into the afternoon. One or two scattered showers continue over northern Scotland, but generally the east coast of Scotland, much of the Midlands and much of eastern England, dry and bright with some sunny spells. Winds lighter than today as well, and so feeling warmer with temperatures high teens, low 20s. It doesn't last. Another area of low pressure out here spills more wet and windy weather across the country during Tuesday night. It tries to clear through the course of Wednesday, but the dull, damp weather may linger across the south and northern Scotland. But it should cheer up for Northern Ireland and northern England. Going to stay blustery, however, through Wednesday, with more showery rain to come through the week.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Drivers should note on the M61 southbound between junctions 3 and 2, there's an accident causing a lane closure. In Staffordshire, all lanes on the A50 eastbound are shut due to a collision. In Northamptonshire, a collision has closed all lanes on the A14 westbound between junctions 13 Thrapston and 10 Burton Latimer. In Cambridgeshire, a vehicle fire has closed all lanes on the A1 northbound between the A428 and the junction with the A14. And on the trains, there's major disruption in the Brighton and Hove area, with issues between London Euston and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Very, very good evening to you and welcome to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Coming up on tonight's action-packed show, Reform UK's latest announcement of a Tory defection has sent shockwaves rippling across Westminster. I'll be joined in the studio by Reform fan favourite Lee Anderson in just a moment's time, as well as a romp through the latest odds on yet more potential Reform UK defections. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer faces the fight of his life for his political career. He has told Tommy Robinson he will not surrender to flag violence. Well, I'll be joined by two men whose mission it is to drape the entire nation in British flags, including that gigantic Union flag off the White Cliffs of Dover. They will be with me in the studio soon. And in royal matters, Prince Harry has claimed he has no regrets about his bizarre memoir in a Guardian interview. Well, the legendary royal insider Tom Bower joins me on that. Plus, Majid Nawaz makes a dramatic return to the airwaves as he launches his new Abraham Accords think tank on its 5th anniversary in light, of course, of Donald Trump's state visit. That's all to come on tonight's action-packed show, but first, here's your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. Good evening to you. Just after 7 o'clock here in the GB newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer says he would never have appointed Peter Mandelson as ambassador to the US if he'd known the full extent of his relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Sir Keir publicly backed the Labour peer at Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday, only to sack him the following day. The Prime Minister insists Lord Mandelson underwent a proper due diligence process before being given the job.
Peter Mandelson, before he was appointed, went through a due diligence process. That's the Propriety and Ethics team went through a process, and therefore I knew of his association with Epstein. But had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him. Because what emerged last week were emails, Bloomberg emails, which showed that the nature and extent of the relationship that Peter Mandelson had with Epstein was far different to what I had understood to be the position when I appointed him.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's facing a fresh crisis as one of his top aides has been forced to resign over the emergence of sexually explicit messages about the MP Diane Abbott. Paul Ovenden has stepped down as Director of Strategy after what Number 10 said were appalling and unacceptable exchanges about the Labour MP, which were written in 2017. Danny Kruger, the Member of Parliament for East Wiltshire, has defected to Reform UK from the Conservatives. He becomes the first shadow cabinet minister and the first sitting Tory MP to do so. Reform's leader Nigel Farage announced it earlier at a press conference. Mr Kruger says Reform has the vision the country needs. Constance Martin and Mark Gordon have each been jailed for 14 years over the death of their newborn baby Victoria. She was found dead in Brighton in 2023 after the pair went on the run for 2 months to get away from social services after their 4 other children were taken into care. Passing sentence, Judge Mark Lucraft, KC, said the pair had thought only of themselves and showed no genuine remorse. Gordon will serve a further 4 years on extended licence. 8 people have been charged after disorder broke out during protests in central London on Saturday. 26 officers were injured and 24 people arrested at the Unite the Kingdom march organised by Tommy Robinson, which saw around 150,000 people take part. The Met is appealing for the public's help to identify 11 other people involved in the violence. The FBI says DNA wrapped on a towel wrapped around the suspected gun used to kill Charlie Kirk has been matched to the suspect in custody. The Bureau's director, Kash Patel, has also revealed the alleged killer wrote a note indicating he was going to take out the Conservative activist before he shot him dead. Well, Mr Kirk's friend, the US Vice President, has paid tribute to the Conservative commentator while holding the late activist podcast.
I don't think that I'm alone in saying that Charlie was the smartest political operative I ever met. Everyone knew him as this fearless debater, this guy who would take the Conservative message into hostile places and inspire younger generations to have courage. One thing that's hit a lot of those young Americans over the last week was how Charlie was there for them when others were not. When they were afraid to speak their minds when they were afraid of what a professor would say, when they were afraid that they would be shouted down by their peers. Charlie was there.
And the Duchess of Kent's coffin has been taken to Westminster Cathedral ahead of her funeral tomorrow. This was accompanied by the sound of the bagpipes as it left Kensington Palace, and the coffin arrived at the cathedral a short time later. The Duchess, who died earlier this month at the age of 92, was a devout Catholic, and many members of the royal family, including the King and Queen, will attend the funeral. That's it for the moment. I'll be back with more at 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, astonishing scenes from early today when the Tory Shadow Minister, Danny Kruger, defected to Reform.
The Conservative Party is over. Over as a national party. Over as the principal opposition to the left. But I'm not despondent, because conservatism is not over. It's never been needed more, and actually it's never been more vibrant. Because the failure of the Conservative Party has created space for an alternative.
Well, in what is the latest move that shows how serious Reform UK is about winning the next general election, Danny Kruger will now work with Zia Youssef to develop the party's departments for preparing for government. And Mr Kruger is perhaps best known for his work on opposing the assisted dying bill, as well as this speech about Christianity.
And a new restoration is needed now, a revival of the faith, a recovery of Christian politics, a refounding of this nation on the teachings that Alfred made the basis of the common law of England all those centuries ago. This is a mission for the Church, under its next leader, whoever that is. It's a mission for this place, this old chapel, which became the wellspring of Western democracy, and for us, its members. And it's a mission for our whole country, the route to a prosperous modernity, founded on respect for human dignity, responsibility for the created world, and the worship of God.
Well, here was the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch's response as it happened live on GB News earlier today.
Danny has made his case very clear that this is not about me. I can't be distracted by that, and I'm not going to get blown off course by these sorts of incidents. I know that this is the sort of thing that is going to happen while a party is changing. I am making sure that people understand what Conservative values are.
Well, a bad day for both Sir Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch. And the big question is this: has Mr Kruger's defection to Reform UK opened the floodgates? Well, I'm joined in the studio by the Reform MP and Chief Whip Lee Anderson, as well as GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson, as well as William Kajani, the political bookmaker for Star Sports, to talk about who might be the next defection. Let's start with you, Lee Anderson, if we could. Danny Kruger said earlier on, the Conservative Party is over. It is dead. The flame is passing from one torch to another. Tell us about the mood in the Reform UK camp today.
Well, obviously, Martin, we're very, very happy with Danny's defection. I just will pull you up on one thing about these so-called floodgates. There are no floodgates at Reform UK. We were very selective in who we have. I mean, Danny is a true patriot, is a Brexiteer, is a God-fearing man, a good man. He's been around this place for donkey's years. It's a big wretch for Danny Kruger to come over to Reform UK. But it's right what he said. The writing's on the wall for the Conservative Party. It's sad because there's still quite a few good people there on the backbenchers. But, you know, it's time to... I mean, the British public now are looking for something different. They're looking to actually vote for a party that actually delivers on its promises. And sadly, the Tory party and the Labour Party a year ago are not delivering on the promises. They're just turning their back on the British public. And I'll tell you what, Danny Kruger, he might be the first of a few to come. I don't know. But like I say, the floodgates aren't open. We're very selective. We'll only have the brightest and the best in our party.
You, of course, defected, well, you lost the whip, you resigned the whip from the Conservatives as an independent before you went to Reform UK yourself. But you have worked with Danny Kruger, of course, in the past when you're in the Conservatives. Tell us about your experience working with Mr Kruger.
He's one of the finest parliamentarians I've ever come across in my 5 or 6 years working in that place. A good man, an honest man. I mean, I think that's important. Always got time for anybody. Willing to help you, and you know, things like the assisted dying bill. It was great during that debate. It was great during the the old sessions, he was there to help and advise and encourage, and he's just one of those people in Parliament where it's a bit like Jacob. You can just go to him and talk to him candidly, and he'll offer you advice and support. And like I say, he knows how the mechanics work of Number 10. He knows how government works. He's got a big job on his hands, to be honest with you, Martin, but I can't think of anybody better than Danny Kruger to come in and help Reform UK.
Lee Anderson, you say people are ready for something new, but a lot of people are saying today, is Reform UK just becoming a Tory old boys club?
Well, it's not. I mean, we're going to deliver on our promises, Martin. Like I said earlier, this is a problem with the uniparty system at the moment. They get elected. As soon as they get into Number 10, they completely ignore the British public. We're not about that. The MPs in Reform UK are from... we are a broad church. The Tory party used to say they're a broad church, but we truly are a broad church. And like I say, getting the experience of somebody like Danny Kruger in at the moment, it just shows that we're moving in the right direction. I was as shocked as anybody that Danny had come along. Like I say, it's a big wretch for somebody like Danny, a true blue, cut him open, and probably say Conservative. But, the people in his constituency of East Wiltshire, they voted for a Conservative at the last election. They got a Conservative, and unfortunately, they didn't get a Conservative party.
Nigel Nelson, what's your thoughts on today's defection?
That Danny Kruger ought to do the honourable thing and call a by-election. I think this about all MPs who choose to join a different party. The people of East Wiltshire voted for a Conservative, not just a Conservative in views, a Conservative Party member, and as a Conservative Party candidate. So he should do what Douglas Carswell did in 2014. He left the Tories, joined UKIP, and held a by-election and won it. I'd like to see Danny Kruger do the same thing in East Wiltshire. It's what the East Wiltshire constituents deserve. I bet he won't, because Reform came fourth last time in the election.
I mean, this is a Labour supporter here, a left-wing agitator, mentioning the word honourable. I don't know how you dare, Nigel, but I'll put this to you now. Danny Kruger stood as a Conservative candidate. They voted in a Conservative. And the way our parliamentary system works in this country, you should know this, Nigel, you've been around the block a few times. You go to the ballot box on a Thursday. It's normally in June. It's normally the first Thursday in June or May, whenever it is. You go to the ballot box and you put your cross at the side of the best person to represent you in Parliament.
Or you may do it against the party.
That's being judgmental, No.
You may. I'm not saying you do.
The way our system works is you pick the best person to represent you in Parliament, to stand up and fight your cause in Parliament.
But you may be doing it because you are...
Let me give you an example then. I'll just end this nonsense right now. I've been in 3 political parties, as you know.
Yeah.
Right, and I stood in the same area for 3 different political parties, and guess what? They voted for me in 4 elections, 2 council elections, 2 parliamentary elections. They voted for me every single time.
And when you moved over from the Tories to Reform, there was a general election just round the corner. So
we didn't know that, did we? We thought there was going to be an election at the end of the year. But I tell you what, my vote share went up.
Yeah, but the whole point was you were elected as a Reform MP, and what Danny Kruger at the moment was elected as a Conservative MP.
All right.
The voters of East Wiltshire deserve a chance to decide.
Nigel, I'll have a bet with you now. He'll be watching GB News viewers. 50 quid that he wins his seat next time.
Well,
come on, put your money where your mouth is.
If he holds a by-election, then I'll have 50 quid with you about winning his seat.
Right, next time. Gentlemen, you saw it here first. Talking about odds, let's bring in now William Kajani. Of course, you are from Star Betting. I wanted to ask you about the scores on the doors. What are the odds? A lot of people talking about the next potential defection to Reform UK. What are the scores on the doors?
So, had some fun running through this afternoon. Suella Braverman leads the list for the 1. She's been talked about as somebody who shares, I think, a lot of values with Reform members. She's often been vocal on immigration as well. I think she was one of the earlier Tory MPs who wasn't happy with the leadership of Rishi Sunak at the time.
So Suella Braverman, favourite 4-1. Who's number 2?
Andrew Rosendale. This is an interesting one pricing up, because there are lots of these contenders who will go through who share some of the views of Reform, who have seats that will be vulnerable to Reform whenever the next election is, but who haven't yet really gone against Kemi Badenoch.
Okay, Andrew Rosendale, of course, the Tory MP at present for Romford. Who's third on your scores on the doors?
Mark Francois.
Mark Francois, he's at 10-1. I believe a little snigger there from you, Lee Anderson. And let's quickly talk about 4th and 5th. Who's 4th?
Esther McVeigh and Katie Lamb are 4th and 5th. respectively, and then we get into the much wilder names. I'm regretting having put this down because I don't think it will happen, but Ian Duncan-Smith threw in there at 16s. Alberto Costa is next on. Then Christopher Chope, he is also 16-1. Then Junior Lewis, Robert Jenrick.
And it's quickly worth mentioning there, an outside money at the moment. A lot of people talking about this one, Robert Jenrick. Thank you very much. Let's get some quick response from you there, Leanne. Any names on that list that make your eyebrows on?
Not really, Martin, because I mean, it's funny the starting price is 4-1. If there's any certs there, you'd be talking odds on even money straight away, and there's nothing in that sort of price bracket there. So if I was having a flutter, I wouldn't have a flutter on any of them. It's interesting that you mentioned Rob Jenrick at the end, because I think Danny was his campaign manager when he was going for leader. So there's a vacancy there, Nigel, if you want one.
Thank you very much.
I think Rob's looking for a new campaign manager.
But it's interesting, though, Leanne, as to how all of the names on this list are Conservative MPs. When are you going to get some lefties over? What about Nigel?
No, you're having a laugh now. You're trying to trigger me now, aren't you? What we want in our party, Martin, is true patriots, people that love our country, people that actually get it, that go out there in the general public and speak to real people. They don't live in this bubble. They're not part of the blob. And I'm sorry, Nigel. I like you a lot, but you're part of the problem down here in Westminster. You don't get out in the real world. You don't connect with real people. And eventually, that place over there is going to be taken over in 3 or 4 years' time by proper Reform UK members of Parliament, and we will take our country back.
But MPs do get out into the real world. That's the whole point. They hold surgeries back in their constituencies. They know what their constituents want. That's why Danny Kruger should put himself up for a by-election, because that's what his constituents will be demanding.
OK, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Lee Anderson, Nigel Nelson, and, of course, William Kajani with the scores on the doors. Gentlemen, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Now, coming up next, Keir Starmer battles for his political career and weighs in on the union flag debate. I'll be joined in the studio by two men who have made it their mission. They've risked their lives, actually, to festoon the country with British flags, including this giant on the white cliffs of Dover. That's next.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubry. Now, Keir Starmer is facing the fight of his life to save his political career. Now, here he was early today addressing the Lord Mandelson scandal.
Peter Mandelson, before he was appointed, went through a due diligence process. That's the Propriety and Ethics team went through a process. And therefore, I knew of his association with Epstein. But had I known then what I know now, I'd have never appointed him, because what emerged last week were emails, Bloomberg emails, which showed that the nature and extent of the relationship that Peter Mandelson had with Epstein was far different to what I had understood to be the position when I appointed him.
Well, just to make matters far worse for the Prime Minister, over the weekend we saw this. Yes, the Unite the Kingdom rally saw more than 100,000 people. Some people thought it might have been as high as 1 million in central London. Well, Prime Minister Keir Starmer issued the following statement after the protest, which did see 25 arrests. He said, Britain is a nation proudly built on tolerance, diversity and respect. Our flag represents our diverse country, and we will never surrender it to those that use it as a symbol of violence and division. Now, this, of course, comes as the grassroots nationwide movement to festoon the country with British flags has sparked backlash from all of the usual suspects. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by two men who are the founders of the Raise the Colours campaign, Elliot Stanley and Ryan Bridge, two proud Brummie lads, as well as GB News' senior political commentator, Nigel Nelson. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. I'm going to start with you, if I could, Ryan Bridge. In fact, we have some footage we're going to show in a short while of you guys dangling a gigantic Union flag off the white cliffs of Dover. I wanted to ask you first, Ryan, why is the flag so important to you?
I think from when I was young, I was brought up working class family in Birmingham, a royalist, patriot, and everything that was about the country. We was at school singing Come By Our, songs like that, and I think that's just where it's come from for me. And I'm a patriot from heart.
And Elliot Stanley, let's bring you in now. You've put these flags up all around, your Brummie lads, and this movement kind of really took off in the Birmingham area. Tell us about the reaction from people who approved of it and also those who didn't.
We've had literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars in support, people stopping the cars, getting out the cars, hugging us, donating us money there and then on the spot, giving us cash to buy more flags. The support's been overwhelming, but there's been the odd occasion where there's been negativity from who you would suspect to be the usual suspects. Not predominantly white, middle class, so-called liberals that are supposed to be tolerant, but they find it for some reason intolerable to see the flag of their own country flying proudly. I do not understand the rationale where people think that the flag of our own country is a divisive matter. As far as we're concerned, it shows unity. It's a flag for every single person in this country, irrespective of colour, creed, religion, sexuality. It's a flag for all of us, and we all need to get behind it and all be patriotic.
And tell us, gentlemen, about that incredible stunt there we saw at the White Cliffs of Dover, Ryan. I mean, the flag was huge. You draped it over the cliffs, and I understand you almost got pulled off the cliff at one point.
That's true. I mean, with what's going on in the country and how it is, back in 50 years ago, we would have been the ones putting the boots on, going over the trenches, and we thought, well, what can we do? We started the movement in Solihull area of Birmingham. A couple of friends of mine, Dean and Danny, started that movement on a WhatsApp group. It grew from there. It went into bigger numbers, going up and down the country, and then all of a sudden we thought we need to move this to the next level, and that's where we want to go going forward. So myself and Elliot, a local businessman in the area, we set up raisethecolours.org.uk, and off the back of that then, we looked at the next thing, and we thought the only place that we can go is the highway, where the boats that are unattended by illegal, fighting men in our eyes, not asylum seekers, but by men that are coming into the country. And we thought we'll go to that highway and we'll put a flag that represents me, my family, my children, and it shows unity and what we love about our beautiful country.
OK, Nigel Nelson, let's bring you in on this point. And I want to particularly draw your attention to Sir Keir Starmer's comments over the weekend. And I think he's probably referring to people like Elliot and Ryan when he says, our flag represents our diverse country and we'll never surrender it to those that use it as a symbol of violence, fear and division. Why is it a symbol of violence, fear and division?
Well, he said some other things which, in fact, almost mirrored word for word what Elliot has just said. It would seem that Elliot and Keir Starmer are roughly on the same side. He also said the flag...
Definitely not.
That came as something of a surprise about it, but as you were.
OK, that he said the flag shouldn't be used to intimidate people because of their background or the colour of their skin, which I think is pretty much what Elliot was talking about earlier. It should be something to unite the country, not to divide it.
But it has been, right?
It seems to me that we would all agree on that particular point.
But where there's an issue is that there are people, there's a section of society that is saying that it's divisive and it shouldn't be flown. And they're saying that the flag is a symbol of racism and it's been hijacked by the far right, whoever the far right may be.
We don't know who they are.
Right, whoever they may be. This isn't, as I've just pointed out and stated, this isn't about race. This is about patriotism. And as I said, there's a section of society that are accusing us of being fascists, racists. You know, as much as support we've had people stop the car and get out the car and say, how dare you, you're a fascist, you're a racist. Them terms are being bandied about so willy-nilly. And it's upsetting for somebody of like ourselves, or just normal people, to be called such abhorrent words.
I wouldn't call you any of those words, by the way, but there is an undercurrent here that it is about that the flag is being flown as a protest against immigration.
OK, so you're saying that you wouldn't call us that, but
yes.
But what you're then saying is what we're telling you is being told to us, that because we're raising the colours, we are some kind of against integration, which we're not. The economic migrants that are coming into this country for all I can look at is they're coming over for money. They're coming over for not just a better way of life or escaping. I'm an 80s child, so I was born in the 80s, Bob Geldof, Feed the World and all the rest of it. And those children, from Africa, I would invite them into my house tonight and look after those children, and all the rest of it. But what's happening now is it doesn't look like that's happening. It looks like they're coming over for a purpose of money.
OK, gentlemen, I want to play a clip now, if I could, of J.D. Vance, because one of your images there said R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. And, of course, Charlie Kirk's assassination has been a huge political divisive point. J.D. Vance, of course, hosted the Charlie Kirk podcast tonight. Here's a clip.
I don't think that I'm alone in saying that Charlie was the smartest political operative I ever met. Everyone knew him as this fearless debater, this guy who would take the conservative message into hostile places and inspire younger generations to have courage. One thing that's hit a lot of those young Americans over the last week was how Charlie was there for them when others were not. When they were afraid to speak their minds, when they were afraid of what a professor would say, when they were afraid that they would be shouted down by their peers, Charlie was there.
OK, that was J.D. Vance earlier on the Charlie Kirk podcast. Now, we've got some live pictures I'd like to show you on screen now. This is at a memorial service in Utah for Charlie Kirk. And, gentlemen, I wanted to bring you back in. Let's start, perhaps, if I could, with you, Ryan, about why Charlie Kirk, an American that a lot of people might not have heard of until very recently, why he became so important to your cause too.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie Kirk came into our thoughts with what happened to him on that dreadful, dreadful, tragic, horrendous day. And for someone to be speaking out in how he did, we thought we'd pay tribute to him with what we were doing down at Dover. We got to printers very late on the evening, and we asked them kindly would they open up and would they do a fitting tribute. We were already doing the Union flag, which represents the whole of our beautiful country, and we thought we'd do a tribute with the St George's Cross, and we put the American Stars and Stripes in there.
OK, final word if I could. Elliot, Stanley, you're successful businessmen. You've got a lot of backing. You're not going to stop anytime soon, are you?
No, we're not.
No, we're not. I mean, we've set up raisethecolours.org.uk in order to take donations. You know, we've spent a sizable amount of our own cash on this so far, but we are looking for donations to help us facilitate the moving forward and the progress of the movement. We don't want it to stop or to slow down through the winter months, where obviously there's darker evenings.
Next stage.
Yeah, we want to keep going, and we want to keep promoting our wonderful flag.
OK, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Elliot, Stanley, Ryan Bridge, I don't know what's going on in Birmingham, but it's become some sort of epicentre for patriotism. So keep up the great work. Nigel Nelson as well, thank you very much for your thoughts. Gentlemen, thanks for coming down to see us in London tonight. Now, coming up in just a moment's time, the legendary royal biographer and the journalist Tom Bowen joins me in the studio as Prince Harry claims in his latest interview he has no regrets about his memoir. That's next. Here, let's...
Good evening. Things are turning a bit calmer and a bit drier overnight. That doesn't mean it's going to be completely calm and dry tomorrow. There will still be a few showers around, but many of us will see a little bit more in the way of sunshine. It's been a boisterous day thanks to this area of low pressure. Still very windy out there across parts of the south where the isobars are particularly close together, but it is starting to ease down through the night. Still some heavy downpours to come across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England, and move back into North Wales later in the night as well. And a few showers keep going across Devon, Cornwall and Somerset. But many other areas will become drier. The wind's still fairly brisk, but coming generally a few notches down compared to today's very lively gusts. Temperatures start Tuesday about 10 or 11 Celsius. There will still be showers feeding into northern Scotland on a fairly brisk wind, but much of central and eastern Scotland having a fine sunny start to Tuesday. Much of Northern Ireland as well, but I suspect along the north coast staying fairly cloudy here. There's a line of thicker cloud and some showers that are going to feed across the Irish Sea into northwest England too, and we'll still have one or two scattered showers whizzing across southwest England. They will be moving through because the breeze will remain fairly brisk, and so we'll continue to see that zone of cloudier weather over southwest Scotland and northern England, provide a few showers that may get over the Pennines into the afternoon. One or two scattered showers continue over northern Scotland, but generally the east coast of Scotland, much of the Midlands and much of eastern England, dry and bright with some sunny spells. Winds lighter than today as well, and so feeling warmer with temperatures high teens, low 20s. It doesn't last. Another area of low pressure out here spills more wet and windy weather across the country during Tuesday night. It tries to clear through the course of Wednesday, but the dull, damp weather may linger across the south and northern Scotland. But it should cheer up for Northern Ireland and northern England. Going to stay blustery, however, through Wednesday, with more showery rain to come through the week.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, for those of you who don't remember, here's an excerpt from Prince Harry's memoir, Spare.
I'd been trying some home remedies, including one recommended by a friend. She'd urged me to apply Elizabeth Arden cream. My mum used that on her lips. You want me to put that on my todger? It works, Harry, trust me. I found a tube, and the minute I opened it, the smell transported me through time. I felt as if my mother was right there in the room. Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
Now, apologies for those of you having your fish and chips at home, because in a new interview with The Guardian today, the Duke has said, amongst other things, that he has no regrets about that memoir. So we can only assume that he applies to the question of oversharing as well. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by the legendary royal biographer Tom Bower, as well as GB News' senior political commentator Nigel Nelson. Tom Bower, welcome to the show. We were all wincing as that clip came out. How can Prince Harry have no regrets?
Well, not only about that, but a lot more. I mean, he said the most dreadful things in his book about Prince William, about Kate, about his father, and about Camilla, and about Britain too. And, of course, it wasn't only in his book. He did it on the Netflix series and the Apple series. And all over the world, he's gone round saying Britain's a racist country and his country is, his family is racist, and all the rest. So the fact that he actually comes to Britain on a very, very structured, well-organised tour, gives away £1.5 million to charities, money he hasn't really got, but he'll do anything to ingratiate himself, convinces the royal corps of reporters that it's all reconciliation, convinces his father at the very last moment to meet him for reconciliation, promises that he'll be silent when he leaves, gets to Ukraine and immediately delivers this amazing self-justification of saying that his conscience is clear, that he's got no regrets, and that everything he said was just a matter of the truth, and it's about time his family buckled down and apologised to him. I mean, it is unbelievable.
Tom Bower, with that in mind, if you could sum up Prince Harry in a single word, what would it be?
Dishonest. I mean, I am currently finishing a book about him, and what is remarkable is you've got to remember just 6 months ago when the whole St. Bailey crisis happened, this is his charity in Lesotho and Botswana, he was accused by the chairman of being a bully, a misogynist, of being dishonest and all the rest of it. And it did seem as if Harry's reputation had hit the dust. But he very cleverly has put all that behind him and suddenly appears, and because he hands out baubles to children and smiles and all the rest of it, everyone says, oh, it's the old Harry back. Well, it's not the old Harry back. It's a new Harry. It's the Harry that wants to have his cake and eat it. He wants to live in California and pop over here just to remind people how important he is, and at the same time, of course, undermine the royal family. And that really is. He and Meghan together have done more in the last 4 or 5 years to destroy the royal family than anyone over the past hundreds of years. And I fear that this trip has done huge damage to the royal family because in the end he'll get his vengeance, and it's very, very bad. This is the point. It's very, very bad for Prince William and Kate. You know, they are struggling to assert themselves. She's not well, the king's not well, the monarchy is not in its best shape ever, and here comes Harry just spewing out his bonhomie and his money, thinking he can buy himself a licence to carry on as before. And I think he should have been told you can't do it.
Tom Bower, of course, we have that state visit from Donald Trump on Wednesday at Windsor Castle. Talk about spare. Harry's become a spare part at a wedding, a spare part at a state visit, a spare part at everything. Has he painted himself into irrelevance?
Well, he hasn't, because when he comes here, he becomes a focus of attention. But, of course, he is spare to Meghan, or was, in her attempt to become sort of the great television housekeeper and homekeeper. But her series, her career is crashing. So, very cleverly, Harry has separated himself from Meghan, as she did from him. But she needs him. And so you've got this couple now in Montecito desperately looking for a new purpose in life. Is Harry Meghan's spare, or is now Meghan Harry's spare? Who is the spare to the royal family? But that is the fact, that they're both of them looking for a purpose, and all they can do is damage the royal family by their activities.
Nigel Nelson, let's bring you in. Tom Bower there saying nobody's done more to damage the royal family in a century.
Well, I certainly wish Harry and Meghan hadn't left Britain. I think that they should have knuckled down and done their royal duties. I do think Tom's being a bit unfair on Harry, that there's no question of his commitment to Invictus and to people who lose their arms and legs fighting for their country. 130,000 of them in Ukraine. That's where he went to give this interview. I also have some sympathy as an ex-royal correspondent for the royals themselves. I mean, these are people who, unlike politicians, they didn't choose the public eye. They were born into it. And I can understand the frustrations that the royals feel towards the media. When I was a royal correspondent following Prince Charles around, I made sure we did deals so we could protect his privacy as much as we possibly could.
Tom Bower, talking about an arm and a leg there, isn't that the point? They'd lose an arm and a leg for anything they touch now. Netflix, they seem to have the inverse Midas touch, this pair.
Well, they made a huge amount of money by selling their story and by dumping on the royal family. And it was unforgivable, all the dreadful things they said. I mean, Meghan alone, in her interview with Oprah Winfrey, made 17 what one might call inaccurate statements. It was shocking what they did. And the whole point is, we may think it's all over, but round the world, everyone now believes that the British royal family is racist because of Meghan, supported by Harry. It's done us huge damage, and that is irrecoverable. And they did it for money. They did it for themselves, self-promotion. And that is what I find so awful. And I'm telling you, the trip to Ukraine, it may seem to you to be all about the poor soldiers who are injured, but it really is all about Harry. Harry is desperately looking for a purpose. He is looking for a role. He gave up on this charity in Southern Africa, Centre Bailey, because it was his money going into it. There wasn't enough money for him. Invictus is funded by governments. And what has been really important for him on this trip here, which no one has picked up yet, is that he needs the support of the British government for the Invictus Games in 27 in Birmingham. And that'll cost a lot of money, but he needs that support. He needs his father there. He needs the establishment to support him. And if he doesn't get it, it'll look terrible. And that is what he's so desperate about, because there's a huge hole in his career.
Excellent stuff. Super. Thank you very much, Tom Bower. A pleasure to have your esteemed company in the studio tonight. And, of course, Nigel Nelson, always a pleasure. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Now, coming up in a moment's time, as the President is set to arrive for his state visit tomorrow, and today marks the 5th anniversary of the Abraham Accords, Majid Nawaz makes a dramatic return to GB News to reveal his brand new organisation. That's next. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, well, there's plenty of sunshine across Europe. There are a few showers around, but otherwise it's feeling very warm out there, a bit breezy across parts of Madeira and the Canary Islands, but across much of Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, lengthy sunny skies, and across Greece as well, not doing too bad. There are just a few showers towards the north of that, but otherwise a lot of sunshine on offer, temperatures up to 34 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to GB News Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Now, Donald Trump will arrive in the UK tomorrow for his unprecedented second state visit, where they're expected to sign a nuclear energy deal. Now, it just so happens that today marks the 5th anniversary of the signing of the historic Abraham Accords. Of course, that is the set of agreements that establish relationships between Israel and several Arab states. Well, my next guest today has launched a new think tank that's called the Accordists, and that's dedicated to the expansion of the Abraham Accords to bring peace and prosperity to the people across the Middle East. And along with this, we have some very interesting new YouGov polling which reveals this. 75% of the British public think it is important for Israel and Arab nations to have good relations to ensure global peace and security. Perhaps equally fascinating, however, only 8% of the country consider the situation in Gaza to be an important election issue, with the most popular being immigration. So once again, showing the political class are in a completely different world. Well, I'm delighted to say I'm joined in the studio by the founder of the Accordists, Majeed Nawaz. Majeed, superb to have you in the studio. What's taken so long? 5th anniversary today. Tell us why the Abraham Accords are still vitally important.
Well, of course, thank you for having me, Martin. Of course, everybody sees on our airwaves the horrific news coming from war. All war is horrific, and the war in the Middle East is particularly so because it's been dragging on for so long. Today is the 5th anniversary of the very first peace initiative since the assassination of Sadat, who was the president of Egypt in 1981. He was assassinated for seeking to make peace between Egypt and Israel. And that assassination stalled peace efforts up until the 90s, when a smaller country, the Kingdom of Jordan, attempted to make some form of approaches to negotiations with Israel. But nothing's happened since, until 5 years ago, under President Trump's first term. Now, the key thing with those stats you mentioned is when you discount those who said that they didn't have an opinion, then that figure of those who think that peace between Arabs and Israelis is important goes up to 91%. And you'd be forgiven for not having heard of the fact that in President Trump's first term, those peace deals, the Abraham Accords, were signed. That didn't get the media attention then that it deserved, to the point where, again, the YouGov poll that we commissioned discovered that 87% of the British public have not heard of the Abraham Accords. So we find ourselves in this peculiar situation where the overwhelming majority of the British public who expressed an opinion, 91%, want better relations between Arabs and Israelis, but they don't know of the existing framework that's already in place, which acts as a vehicle to get those better relations. 87% of people haven't heard of the Abraham Accords. The purpose of the Accordists was founded to fill that void, where the public says, yes, they want better relations. And our point is, well, there exists a vehicle to get those better relations. That's the Abraham Accords. It's a regional and a regionally negotiated approach for peace in the Middle East, and that's what we're about.
Majeed Nawaz, though, when we see October the 7th, when we see the complete breakdown of peace between Christian nations, Jewish nations, and increasingly poisonous Islamism. Is there any hope for peace, or is this a forlorn attempt?
Well, I can understand why people would be very much in despair at the moment. The situation is beyond horrific. It's something which is the stuff of nightmares, to be honest, and war is the stuff of nightmares. Nobody should be encouraging war. But actually, what I'd say to you, Martin, is that that's the very reason why this is needed. If now is not the time to be calling for peace, when is? And the key thing is that on accordists.org, which is the website for the Accordists, we've put up a metric. For the first time, what we've managed to do is provide measurables for relations between Arabs and Israelis. And people may be surprised to know that in the long term, over the course of one lifetime, that's 70 years, in fact, with the measurables we've put on our metric on accordists.org, we find ourselves in a historic high in terms of relationships. Why? Because the Abraham Accords, when they were signed 5 years ago under Trump's first term, they bumped up the number of countries that began to have relations with Israel and vice versa. And that significantly impacted the metric to a point where, over the course of 70 years, the Arab-Israeli relations are better than they've ever been. Morocco, the Emirates, that's UAE, and Bahrain, and Sudan all signed the Abraham Accords. Sudan is yet to ratify, but again, it's an Arab Muslim majority country. And we find in those examples hope, if only people had heard of the Abraham Accords. And so our mission is to revive the sentiment for peace in the Middle East through the Abraham Accords, consolidate the gains we've already made, maybe have countries like Sudan ratify the accords that they signed. Syria, the new leader of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, who has credibility among Sunni Muslims in the region because of the fact that he had a fighting background. He was involved in the overthrow of Assad. He's made overtures just in this last week that the Syrian government may well make some form of security arrangement with Israel. So there is definitely hope. But again, that only comes if we can create a public mandate for it, and then our governments work towards it as part of their foreign policy.
May I ask you, as well as laudable attempts at peace, is there sometimes a call for something else? The eradication, perhaps, of Hamas, of Hezbollah, maybe of the Ayatollahs. They won't sit down and talk peace anytime soon, will they?
Well, this is why the regional approach, which is the Abraham Accords, is so important. I'm glad you asked that question, because it allows us to say, look, at the end of the day, this is not a bilateral problem. This is not an Israel-Palestinian Authority problem. It simply, frankly, isn't. And if we continue to try and approach it in that way, we're in danger of repeating the same thing, making the same mistake, which is the definition of madness. We've got to come to a realisation that this is, in fact, a regional problem, and therefore it must have a regional solution, a regionally negotiated solution. What do I mean by the fact that it's a regional problem? Well, at the end of the day, it's Iran that funds, we know this, Iran funds the terrorist organisation Hamas in Gaza, Iran funds Hezbollah in Lebanon, arms and funds, and Iran arms and funds the Houthis in Yemen. So you've got one regional country there, Iran, clearly involved. On the other side, you've got Saudi Arabia that fought a bitter civil war with Iran inside Yemen. It's tragic as it is. It's got nothing to do with Israel there. That's a Saudi-Iranian war. So now we've introduced three different countries fighting each other, Israel, Iran and Saudi Arabia, all fighting each other in that region. And we haven't even gotten to those other countries we named who are trying to make peace with Israel in the same region, such as the UAE, Morocco and Bahrain. Okay. So that kind of demonstrates the multipolarity of this. It's a regional problem and it must have a regional solution.
Majid Nawaz, a font of knowledge, such passion. It's great to see you back in the studio. Thank you very much indeed. Superb. And of course, the Accordists, people can go along and get involved in that. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. State
of the Nation is up next. The Jacob Rees-Mogg's Hoving interview. I heard a lot there from Majid about civil war. Today has been a day of civil wars, a defection from the Conservative to Reform. I had a bookie in earlier on who had a list of MPs next on the defection list. You might be delighted to know you weren't on that list, Sir Jacob.
Yeah, but that's very sensible bookmakers who are wise people. But it's not civil war. I think that we need to get politics in perspective. What has been going on in the Middle East is people being killed. What is happening in the Conservative Party is a senior and important figure has gone to another party. I wouldn't put the two in the same sentence or same bracket.
Very eloquent. Now you've got a quick minute. What's next on State of the Nation?
Well, all this talk about Starmer going and then what happens next, and I think this can precipitate a general election. I think the Constitution has changed. Our Constitution evolves. It's not codified, it evolves. And there's a strong feeling amongst voters that a new Prime Minister is their person and needs a mandate from them, not somebody imposed upon them by a cabal. I think we saw that when Gordon Brown became Prime Minister in 2007, and we've seen it since. And that all this talk of Andy Burnham just parachuting in is for the birds. Voters won't put up for it. If he thinks he can just get in like that, he's got a nasty shot waiting for him.
OK, superb. State of the Nation is up next. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in tonight. Majid Dawaz, absolute pleasure to have in the studio. State of the Nation is up next. I'm back tomorrow, 3 till 6. See you then, but first, here's your weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Things are turning a bit calmer and a bit drier overnight. That doesn't mean it's going to be completely calm and dry tomorrow. There will still be a few showers around, but many of us will see a little bit more in the way of sunshine. It's been a boisterous day thanks to this area of low pressure. Still very windy out there across parts of the south where the isobars are particularly close together, but it is starting to ease down through the night. Still some heavy downpours to come across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland and northern England.